I'm a dire Chiefs and Cyclones fan, and Milan Momcilovic is officially a Kentucky Wildcat. I detail the whole Milan Momcilovic saga, my interactions with Kentucky fans as a whole, and why I still believe Iowa State basketball is in a better spot than Kentucky in 2026. My name's AJ Caldwell. Welcome back to Cyclone Kingdom. The saga is over. Milan Momcilovic has committed to Kentucky yesterday, and I'm super excited for him. We've already detailed a little bit about Momcilovic's legacy and everything that he is as a person, as well as an Iowa State Cyclone. Regardless of what college it says he's from, when he inevitably goes to the NBA, he's got respect from me and hopefully a lot of other Cyclone Nation people as well because of how he's handled himself and because of what Iowa State made him to be. I mean, he turned into the best shooter in the country. I saw Kentucky fans last night give their live reactions of landing Milan Momcilovic, and while it was hard to see another school excited to land him and to have him on their roster, it was also surreal to think, man, this guy's the number one transfer portal prospect, and people are excited to get him because Iowa State turned him into the best shooter in the country. That's a cool thing to think about. That's a really cool thing to think about. But he's officially at Kentucky. The saga's over. All the different reports are over. And I wanted to give at least my take about how everything's gone on. There's been a lot of stuff on X. If you guys follow me on X over there, as well as on our TikTok, the X crowd has been louder than the TikTok crowd for sure. But at least wanted to give my take on how everything transpired with Kentucky fans. Now there's some burner accounts for UK fans, for Big Blue Nation fans on X that have just been awful and vile. And so those are what those are. I've already talked about those people. They need Christ. They need a lot more help than whatever is going on already in their life. And they need to find the hope of Christ and remember what it means to be kind to people and be humane and not degrading. But I want to talk about my interactions with actual Kentucky sources and Kentucky media members, because that's where I think kind of the rubber met the road. And there were a lot of false assumptions put out there. I put out a lot of false assumptions. Some other people put some false assumptions out about me. So I just want to clarify everything. First, to Big Blue Dylan over at Bleed Blue Network. Bleed Blue Network as a whole has not been kind to me or respectful to me as a human being or as an image bearer of God. Their whole organization as a whole is, I think, just a complete godless place where they don't respect people whatsoever. But I got to give respect to Dylan, because even though he's associated with them, you would never know it. The way he's handled himself, the way he's been transparent about his reports, about the Momcilovic decision that was ultimately made. It was made on Monday. He put out a report that said the decision was made on Saturday. That, whether or not that was true, we still don't really know. He had reports from Louisville people. He had reports from Kentucky insiders and all this different stuff. Whether or not that was actually the case and Milan just waited 48 hours to make it public, no one will ever know. My point in bringing that up is Dylan has handled himself really well. And I publicly apologized to Dylan on X. I want to publicly apologize to him as well here, because I lumped him in with Bleed Blue Network that just needs a lot of help. And Dylan's not that. Dylan is an actual insider. He gave some actual great reports, and he was transparent about potentially it not being true. And the fact that a decision could have been made later than Saturday. So Dylan, again, I want to apologize, ask for your forgiveness for those things. Obviously, we're a Chiefs and Cyclones account, but more importantly, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I believe it's important and biblical to admit when we're wrong and to seek people's forgiveness when we're wrong. And so Dylan, shout out to you. Keep doing great work over there. Excited for you guys to have Milan. So that's kind of how everything transpired with the whole saga of Milan. And everything that went into whether or not I was going to choose Louisville or Kentucky or Arizona, or if there are other wild cards out there. Did Iowa State get back involved through donors? That's all kind of a wash now because he's at Kentucky. No one will really ever know about that, nor should they, invest any too much time, energy to it. But I'm excited for him. I really am. As I mentioned before, I think it's a lot different than the Rocco Becht saga, the Audie Crooks saga, the Matt Campbell saga. Milan has handled himself very well, and that goes far beyond him actually personally interacting with me. I know that plays a huge part in it because he doesn't have to do that. I'm just this humble, no-name guy that just decided to start an Iowa State account. But the fact that Milan just loves Cyclone Nation, even outside of interactions he's had with me, just proves that he's handled himself really well. Keep in mind, guys, he came back last season with Jefferson and Lipsy when there were reports, shout out to Brent Bloom, there were reports coming out now that prior to last season, Jefferson, Lipsy, and Momcilovic all had better offers on the table and were going to go do those. They were going to go to those other offers. Now, we don't know what those other offers were, but Jefferson was all but committed to a different school because of the NIL deal he was getting over there. And TJ and Brent Bloom and a lot of the other Iowa State Foundation people, shout out to them and their NIL funds and whatever they raked in to keep those three guys. That in itself proved that Milan is a Cyclone for life. I know he's going to have Kentucky on his chest. He's going to wear the blue and white forever on his NBA resume. It's going to say Kentucky. But in my mind, he's an Iowa State lifer. I know that sounds kind of weird, and it's going to be weird to watch him at Kentucky. But he's handled himself really well. And I will continue to say until someone proves me otherwise that he's the most respectful Iowa State player to finish their college career somewhere else. At least publicly, right? There's a lot of other Penn State guys that came from Iowa State that are just kind of going underneath the radar. Marcus Neal comes to mind. He actually responded to one of our videos and showed how much he still loves Cyclone Nation and misses us and everything. But in terms of a public standpoint, Rocco, Adi, and Milan have been the three big ones in the public sphere that have left Iowa State. And Rocco and Adi have yet to prove that they actually even cared about how Cyclone Nation felt about them. Yeah, you can make your post, your farewell speech, and all this, that, or the other. But Milan actually cared about Iowa State. And he's going to go finish his career somewhere else now because it's the financial wise thing to do and it's the future wise thing to do. Milan wasn't really going to be able to fit perfectly at Iowa State. Now, we would have welcomed him with open arms, but it goes far beyond whether or not he would have been a good fit because Iowa State had already kind of moved on with their roster. And that kind of leads me into my final point of where do we sit now? Right now that the final kind of saga has ended and we can officially go into the offseason and kind of wait out these summer months and talk about all the preseason this, preseason that. Where does Iowa State basketball sit as they go into 26, 27? We're going to have a lot of preview videos about that coming out soon, but at least I want to give my take on that, especially in relation to Kentucky's roster, because that was one of the big debates going on with Big Blue Nation and with Cyclone Nation is which roster is better, which team is better going into 26, 27. And I still think that Iowa State's better. And that's no disrespect to Milan. I think he's an awesome player. I think he's the best shooter in the country. He's not a needle-moving player to make a team immediately a national title contender. Now, Iowa State's roster isn't immediately a national title contender right now. I don't think that at all. I think they have the potential to get there. I think Kentucky's got to prove it more than Iowa State's got to prove it because Iowa State has a better track record in the last 5 years than Kentucky, right? If we're not just going to take Mark Pope's last 2 years, that's one of the arguments. Oh, Mark Pope has the same amount of NCAA tournament wins as TJ Otzelberger. Well, TJ Otzelberger has been there 5 years plus, right? Mark Pope's been there 2 years. So in the last 2 years, if you want to say they have the same amount of tournament wins, that's fine. TJ's been to 2 more Sweet 16s. He's got a perennial top 10 program, top 15 program. He's a perennial top 10 coach, where I don't think people say that about Mark Pope. When Kentucky fans are calling for Mark Pope's head if he doesn't do well this year, that's not a national title contending team. It's just not. And so when you look at the rosters and you look at even the culture and how they're going to play and everything, Iowa State's in the better conference. They're going to have better competition. They're going to be better tested going into March. The big thing for Iowa State fans is, can you stay healthy? If Iowa State can stay healthy for a March, anything's possible. Anything is possible for Iowa State. Like, let's not act like that if Joshua Jefferson was healthy or Keyshawn Gilbert was healthy, that Iowa State wouldn't have gone to the Elite Eight in back-to-back years. That's the downside of injuries to your best players, which is what had happened. We've talked ad nauseum about that. But Iowa State still has Elite Eight potential. By the way, Kentucky has Elite Eight potential too. The difference is Kentucky has to prove that they belong this year in the current 2026 college basketball world more than Iowa State has to prove it. If Iowa State has a down year, it's like, okay, that's a little different than what we've seen over the last 5 years. If Kentucky has a down year, it's like, we expected this and saw this coming because they didn't like their coach. That tells you everything you need to know about where each team is at going into 2026. It's not the historic conversation. I'm not saying historically Iowa State's better than Kentucky. I'm saying in 2026, there's preseason rankings out right now to show it. Either Kentucky is right there with Iowa State in the preseason, or Iowa State is ranked above them. That's just the reality of it. And so I wish Milan well. I hope he does well at Kentucky, but I'm not going to expect Kentucky to just go to an Elite Eight or to win the SEC. That's not the reality of where Kentucky basketball is at. So I got faith in my guys. I got faith in my boys. Jamarian Bateman, Killian Torrey, Blake Buchanan, Dominis Caspleta. I mean, it's going to be, and then you add in all the transfers of Leon Bond and Ryan Prather and Jaquan Johnson and Trey Singleton and Taj Manning. Iowa State basketball is going to be good this year, guys. Good. And Kentucky basketball, yeah, they're going to be good. But if they're not good, are you going to be more surprised or more like, yep, there was the potential of that? Whereas if Iowa State's not good, you're going to be like, that's not what we expected. That's where each program is at. So that's my take on it. That's my take on my whole saga with Kentucky fans. Big Blue Nation, I hope that kind of at least helps you in your interactions with me moving forward. I had no ill will towards you guys. I know there's a lot of random burners on X that just have it out for me and are threatening me with this, that, or the other and call me vile names and stuff. There's no place for that. And I wish that a lot more Kentucky fans I've seen on TikTok that have been nice would transfer over to X and realize what it means to be respectful over there. It is what it is. That's just the kind of the world that we live in and where social media is at. But that's why we're here at Cyclone Kingdom. That's why we engaged with this environment, to bring Christ back into sports media and to bring quality sports debate back to the fray. So appreciate you guys more than you know. Appreciate everything that's happened on this journey so far. Continue to stay dialed in. Even though it's the summertime, we're rolling out stuff every single weekday and even some stuff over the weekend if there's some instant reaction stuff to get to. So leave your comments down below about what you thought of the Milan Momcilovic saga and where you think Iowa State basketball and Kentucky basketball are at going into 2026. And as always, roll clones. And how about those Chiefs?